way that you have to be firm, resolute, and committed. And also in doing what you are doing, make sure that you are not being inconsistent. There's no hypocrisy. You cannot be trying to dictate to others how they will behave when you are not maintaining democracy. I think that is the deficiency. That is the deficiency and that is where a very competent, forward-looking, active, and then visionary leadership is important that can drive the process. Because once you don't get it right there, you can get all the commissioners, but if the man at the head is, once they notice that is weak, the commissioners are not going to, but if they know that the general, like it's in the army, your general gives you authority, let them lead by example. That has not happened, and that is why there is now recession. People, let us pretend about it. This is not where the region ought to be. And it is because the member countries are weak, and that weakness has now been transported into the regional level. But it can be, this is a beginning, a good beginning that they have said, but let them walk the talk. Let them bring somebody that can bring leaders, that can bring, make a difference. It is not about you and you, that goes from national to regional level. Leadership is about service. It's about, look at the community, like I mentioned, almost 400 million people waiting for ECOWAS to deliver. And all you do is you find people junketing, thinking that, they are there on their own merit. You are just there as one in a million that has come to bring what you can to improve, to better the lives of citizens. Right. That is not happening the way it should happen, and it must happen if ECOWAS can regain it's a case now of past glory, and nobody lives on past glory for long.
All right, Paul Ejime, thank you very much there for your comments. I'm sure, but some persons will disagree with the conclusions that you're arriving at to say that ECOWAS is living on its past glory. I see Ambassador Bulus Lolo smiling. Omale is deadpan in his appearance. Probably also in agreement with Paul Ejime.
He says no.
He says no. Yeah, that's right. He doesn't agree with Paul Ejime. Gentlemen, we are going to have to take a short break now. When we return, we'll continue with the conversation.
Dialogue, empathy, love, and unity. These are vital components of nation building.
For all to be well, we appeal that we should refrain from volatile, provocative, inciting messages and language.
Let's build and not destroy.
Nigerian youths are about the greatest assets the country has at the moment. It is therefore not surprising that the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari is strategically responding to the yearnings of the youth through multiple projects and programs. Youth Entrepreneurship Support Years by Bank of Industry, the Youth Investment Fund by the CBN, and several other conditional cash transfer programs. Recruitment of 774,000 social workers, majority of whom are youths, and so many other projects that are beneficial to youths directly or indirectly. If the administration can do all this, definitely with a degree of patience and time, it can achieve more. Nigerian youths must come together to say no to terrorism, no to vandalism, and no to all disruptive tendencies. Hashtag Youth for Greater Nigeria. Pacifying the youths, unifying the nation.
The Sports Parliament, your weekly sports program, is back to the studio every Thursday, 10:30 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. live on the Nigerian Television Authority, Africa's largest television network. Watch out for the parliamentarians with renewed vigor and zest. Mr. Speaker with his gavel to harmonize sports resolutions. Sports Parliament, a must-watch. Sports Parliament, the home of sports verdict. The highs have it.
You're welcome back, and this is still Good Morning Nigeria, and we've been discussing the ECOWAS summit and matters arising. Ambassador Lolo, we're discussing during the break, and I would like to throw this question to you. As a body, how do we begin to demand reforms, accountability, and good governance in ECOWAS?
Well, thank you for bringing this question up. Let me very quickly just make clear a few things so we understand exactly what is at stake. Out there, people think and want to see ECOWAS behave as a government. It is not. There has been and still a continuing attempt at the African Union to have run good governance where sham elections have been held, and in the context of the countries where the elections took place, they would tell you that they were democratic because parties contested, electoral commissions supervised, and results were announced. But what often leads or takes place, let's say in the Gambia, where Jammeh wanted to perpetuate himself, the opposition, in fact, was emasculated. And he would have gone ahead to win that election in the high 90s, not just low 90s, very high 90s, because he would have manipulated the results. So to him, that would have been good governance. But now, if we put out accountability, put out openness, put out inclusivity, put out equity, fairness, and the rest of it as the indices that you use to measure good governance, then across the board you can say, okay, there is good governance here and good governance there. But back in the context of ECOWAS, ECOWAS is as good as the member states are. And if ECOWAS, we feel today we are not happy with what is happening at the Commission, we must also question what is happening in the individual countries. It is the individual countries that will give effect to the performance of the Commission, I dare say. And for me as a Nigerian, and having been in my past life in diplomacy and foreign affairs, I believe that it is a call to duty for Nigeria to chart a new path on West Africa. Not just on West Africa. 2 months ago, Kingsley, you remember, on this program, we had a session on foreign policy review. Okay. I advocated then, as I do this morning, that there should be a foreign policy review conference in Nigeria. The last took place in Kuru in 1986. It is time for another review. And it is this review that will help us to set an agenda, define our principles, and then come up with a mechanism for implementation. We need to put the right tools to perform the right tasks. We have a situation where sometimes you repeat the same mistakes over and over and over, but you expect different results. It will never happen. And until we get it right, until Nigeria then says, this is the ECOWAS we want for the 21st century, one that will meet the needs of the people, one that, and we've talked about security and insecurity. It is our porous borders in the various member states that is allowing the small arms and light weapons to flow, and the traffickers as well.
You know, Ambassador Bulus, I want to stay with you and bring in this last point you just made, along with what Dr. Mali said earlier, that it appears that sometimes ECOWAS is unable to catch its breath to review what went on before, to review its own agenda for action, and to say, look, how far did we go, what went wrong, how do we fix it? I'm bringing this issue now because we're talking about insecurity and small arms and light weapons, a topic we also discussed here on a number of occasions on Good Morning Nigeria. Now, the leaders in Accra, who met in Accra agreed to establish a permanent forum of West African national security advisors. Yeah. I recall when we were discussing the proliferation of small arms and light weapons, the first public relations officer, Commissioner of Police Frank Kumba, did say that there is supposed to be in existence a committee of ECOWAS Inspectors General of Police.
Yeah.
But it doesn't appear to be functioning. And that each country is supposed to have its own responsibility in checking the flow of arms so that it doesn't then end up in one country. I mean, if you are a producer nation, Ghana, of course, is said to be the leading producer of arms and small arms in West Africa. Small arms and other things land from different parts of the world in other countries. But each of these other countries appears not to be taking its own responsibility. And here we are saying, okay, create a permanent forum of national security advisors. And Ambassador Bulus, earlier you were also talking about the fact that sometimes we just create these things, you know, and how do we suggest or advise that, look, let's go back and see pre-existing structures, pre-existing committees, how well have they functioned, rather than creating new ones, increasing the expenditure, and the money, of course, is not readily available because subscriptions are low.
Well, again, ECOWAS is the sum total of its individual parts. And by that I mean it is made up of 15 member states. And you rightly pointed out that it is the responsibility of each of these members to control its borders. It is also the responsibility of each of the members to cooperate with one another and keep faith with what is agreed to. And when it comes to the number of bodies that have been created, I think the temptation often is to respond to challenges as they emerge. So anytime there is something new, you would see the members saying, okay, let's set up a body to address that particular issue. Forgetting that unless you link them up as a chain, they will exist in silos. And it is these silos today that are given as a problem. But the recent creation of a permanent body, I read that in the communique of National Security Advisors. And I said to myself, if this body is going to be effective, I only hope that they will also put in place a mechanism for them to meet, not just meet, but have an agenda that will drive the work of the National Security Advisors. Because you can have a National Security Advisor in name that does not perform the function and does not carry out the responsibility of a National Security Advisor. It depends on the clime where that office exists and whether or not the best use is being made of it. But the long and short of it is, if we want a new ECOWAS, then we must go back individually to our home states and do what is expected of us. And in our individual home states too, we must do what serves the interest of the people the best and the most. Because failure in government, failure to meet the needs of the people, failure to arise and do that which is expected at the right time will translate into failure externally.
Ambassador Lolo, thank you so much. Let's now talk about another issue on the front burner during the summit, and that is COVID-19 pandemic, which is still around. And ECOWAS, in its latest resolve, that members should continue with containment measures as the vaccines are limited in supply. Dr. Omale, what do you make of it? We are Africans, and we know there are so many medicinal plants and everything abound in the West African sub-region. Why are we not thinking of producing our own vaccine, but depending on vaccines from foreign countries, from developed countries?
I think it's because of our mentality. You know, we like we have been saying since, we don't have the confidence to do the most rudimentary of things. Our dependent nature. We always believe that, oh, if it's not AstraZeneca or Oxford or Johnson & Johnson, nothing good can come out of here. So we already have a mindset, which is very, very wrong. And when you go to all these companies that in Europe and other parts of the world that are manufacturing this vaccine, you discover that there are a lot of Africans, West Africans, who are working there with the idea. But we have a mindset, and our leadership are also not interested in carrying proactive measures, doing research, and then coming out with things like vaccine, which ordinarily, once you know the formula, it shouldn't be very difficult to produce. But we have a lot of challenges. Like I said, in the whole communique, I didn't see the West African Power Project mentioned. I didn't see the highways, the railway, all the things that would have integrated us as a people. I didn't see those things. And when I talk about the communique not addressing, like Ambassador said earlier, the whole idea of ECOWAS was supposed to be an economic integration body so that people can maintain their sovereignty. You see, one of the challenges with ECOWAS, which summarizes all what we have been saying this morning, is how much of their sovereignty are they willing to donate? Individual of the 15 countries, how many of their sovereignty are they willing to donate? I respected President Buhari when he shut our borders, because it was becoming, our economy went into recession because our border was too porous. Rice was being smuggled through Badagry. If you go to around Kebbi, used cars were being smuggled in, everything. So our economy was going down. The president has to say, no, enough is enough. Shut the border and look at the president of Benin, Talon, Boniayi. They were all rushing here to beg that the border should be thrown open. So if there's one thing President Buhari did that, to my mind, that I've always appreciated, was the shutting of our borders. Because we have to tell our West African neighbors that, look, we are big brother, but we cannot die because we are big brother. And that is the message, I think, going forward, just like the question you asked, Ambassador, going forward, our big brother role should be reciprocated. And we cannot just be a dumping site because we are big brothers. So in the communique, I saw issues of borders. Almost everybody was now protecting their own entity. So how much, one of the challenges that ECOWAS will have to grapple with is how much of their sovereignty are individual countries willing to surrender. Then the mischievousness in the organization is very latent. 5 Francophone countries, 5 Anglophone countries, and then 10 Francophone, 10 Francophone countries, and then 5 Anglophone countries. And they use that numerical strength at every point in time, backed by France, to undermine these things that we are talking about.
Well, not 10 Francophone. You also have Lusophone countries.
Yes, of course.
Ghana-Bissau. Sorry, I said Ghana. Guinea-Bissau.
Yes.
Cape Verde.
But ideally, there's the Anglophone countries.
You want to bunch them together?
Yes, the Anglophone countries were always at the receiving end, especially because out of the 400 million population, half of it is Nigeria.
But the big brother role we seem to assume, like my mother would say, don't you think that they're just gathering sand under our feet?
That is the point I'm making, because out of the 400 million population of the sub-region, Nigeria alone is over 200 million. So that already, we are a threat as far as they see us. We are already a dominant player within the sub-region. And all this gang up against Nigeria, to the extent that even small elections that are held within the sub-region, there are gang up. Ambassador knows some of the committees just for Nigeria to chair, they will be gang up, and then they will bring somebody from Benin Republic and so on and so forth. So are we willing, ECOWAS going forward, are we really ready to integrate as a body, or people want to hold on to their small enclave? And when it's time for to support everybody, say, oh, Nigeria is the big brother. And that's why the funding issue is almost left to Nigeria, as you said, 60%. Because people say, oh, Nigeria, you have all the resources. Oh, you are the big brother. As if we are begging to keep ECOWAS together.
Okay,
Yeah.
Dr. Mole, thank you very much. Paul Ejime, stay with us via Zoom from the United Kingdom. Let's return to the issue of the eco currency. The eco currency. Well, the deadline for its takeoff has been shifted again. There have always been issues around that common West African currency. A number of steps ought to have been taken. I was just wondering, I mean, is the eco currency now a mirage, considering the financial and economic requirements for you to have a common currency in use by 15 countries? And a number of these countries still have their financial allegiance to their former colonial overlords. So is eco currency a mirage, or do we just keep it as a prestige item? We return to it once in a while until at least we are sufficiently strong enough to say, yes, we can do this?
Yes, you will even say that our, the founding fathers of ECOWAS were even more daring and ambitious than even than this generation. We have the technology, we have everything that can make us move faster, but we appear to be, struggling. The currency issue was talked about as having a single currency like euro, in EU. It was part of the what you call the ingredients of monetary union. Monetary union in the sense that if they were together, act together. There's nothing wrong in Nigeria with its size and its economy. Advancing the naira as what you have as a regional currency. But, how do you do that? They came up with this issue of ECO. They are supposed to go with the 7 countries, aside from Guinea, that is doing its own, has its own Guinea franc. The other 7 in ECOWAS, they have from our colonies of France. They are tied to the CFA franc, while the others have their own national currencies, Nigerian naira, and so on and so forth. And so they have talked about what you call the second monetary zone that was supposed to bring the Anglophone plus Guinea to join, so that at one point there will be a convergence. After using ECO, and then the ECO will now, everybody will come, those using CFA franc, you can now have a single currency. It's an ambitious project, but it's doable. It is just that lack of political will, and the fact that, let's not forget that, like any ethnic African, from colonialism and, slavery, the past, we don't need to dwell on them, but there are still overhangs. Some of the members of ECOWAS are still beholden to their former colonial masters. And let's not fool ourselves that everybody wishes ECOWAS well to us to succeed, or even Nigeria. They know that if Nigeria gets it right, Africa will get it right. So some people in their very mischievous ways, they try to sabotage the fact that Nigeria cannot, and we are probably playing into their hands by not thinking outside the box, because we can't keep blaming outsiders for our problem. Africa is now more than 60 years old. So it is our leaders that should get it right. But what do you have? Some of them work in connivance with the outsiders. It's not just former colonial masters, those who to undo their own countries. ECO is one of it. You notice what happened, and a summit was had barely ended. Was it last year or 2 years ago, when one of the leaders left his colleagues without any explanation and went to Abidjan to work to announce with an European leader, France, that they were now going to replace CFA France with ECO. And then people are saying, what does that mean? It's like you are hijacking it. It was, telling 15 member, country or region that you can go to hell. And then it met with some resistance. But that has to be sustained. Nigeria, I can't stress this too much, what the ambassador, I'm glad that he has worked in the system, because what happens is that, we don't want to rock the boat, leave it, but we have to talk about it, that Nigeria needs to be strategic. There is nothing wrong in playing the big brother, but look at what the US is doing. Where you put your money, you have to determine what. Do you know that some member countries or their leaders know more about what is happening in ECOWAS that is based in Nigeria than Abuja? And that shouldn't be so. And it is that lack of interest of to
reposition the Council of the Wise. What does it signify that Nigeria's former president, Goodluck Jonathan, who has undertaken a number of missions on behalf of ECOWAS to some troubled West African countries, and has also been tapped as an election observer elsewhere on the African continent, that is being asked now to chair this Council of the Wise? What does this mean, and what would you expect?
Well, for me to see former President Jonathan as the chair of the Council of the Wise in West Africa is sweet music. And sweet music because he is a former president of Nigeria. He also has the unique record of being that head of state of Nigeria that did not go to court to contest or defend his election. So his credibility as a Democrat stands him out. But beyond that, anytime the name Nigeria is mentioned positively, has to be a thing of joy to all of us. And then seeing now that the Council of the Wise has been rejuvenated, and with Nigeria leading the charge, I hope that we will see that as our contribution to preventive diplomacy. Because prevention, we say, is better than cure. And if the Council of the Wise lives up to its expectation, we will see less and less and less conflicts in West Africa, because as these conflicts are emerging, it is the Council of the Wise that will step in to nip it in the bud. But failing that, we may just be going back again to the same musical chairs, and who knows. But I pray that it will be a different music this time.
Indeed, it is a sweet music to the ears of Nigerians. Thank you so much, Ambassador Bulus Lolo, former Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It's been a pleasure having your input on the program. And Dr. Adoye Matthew Omale, Department of Diplomacy and International Relations, Bayes University, thank you so much for coming on the program. And Paul Ejime, who is from the UK International Affairs. And Thank you so much for coming on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so that's it for the program today. We thank you for tuning in. We are back tomorrow same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. Until then, as we always say, take care of yourself. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.
And I'm Juma Yusuf. Do have a great day. Goodbye.